Hello, I want to talk to you today about books. Do you have a favourite book? This is one of my favourites. It's all about Andrew Cotter and his dogs Olive and Mabel. It's very funny, and since I like dogs as well, I really like that book. This is one of my grandson Rory's favourites. It's a farm book, and as you go through all the pages, you can lift flaps and you hear the different animal noises. He calls it his tractor book. Why? Because that's one of his favourite pages with the tractor. And he always comes and looks for that book when he comes for a visit. Some authors write a series of books, a bit like this one about Harry Potter. And there's a whole series that J.K. Rowling wrote about Harry Potter and his different adventures. My son Alistair, he used to love the Darren Shan series of books. In fact, I remember we were really working hard because he wasn't really into books, and we were trying to encourage him to read. And we were away on a summer holiday, and it was in Scotland, and the weather wasn't exactly ideal, as happens in Scotland. We were in a shop, and he asked if he could have a book, and he chose one by Darren Shan. Well, he started reading that book, and he couldn't stop. Then he wanted the rest of the series. But we were very happy to get them for him because he really enjoyed reading those. Do you have one of these? A Bible? This is one of mine. I have a number of them, all different versions. The Bible is a whole library of books. Inside it has history books, books of rules or laws, poems, songs, adventures, pictures of what the future brings. What's more, it is in fact many ways like a series in that all the books are linked and they lead, if you look at the different messages in different ones, to show God's overall plan. It's a bit like in Luke chapter 24 verses 13 to 35. There's a section there called the Road to Emmaus, and it's after Jesus' resurrection, and two of his disciples are walking down the road, and all of a sudden Jesus joins them, and as he talks to them he explains to them different points in all the Old Testament books and how they point to his coming and how he had to die to bring about God's plan. Some of the books in the Bible, well, there's history ones like in Kings and in Chronicles. They tell you some of the history of the Jewish people. There's books like Ruth, which shows an example of the faithfulness that Ruth showed when she looked after her mother-in-law and even went with her to another country to help her, make sure she was safe, looked after. And there's adventure stories like the book of Daniel. And in that, there's a bit where Daniel is put into a den of lions. Very scary, but God saves him. Spoiler alert. There's stories of love and bravery. One where Moses' mother puts him in the basket into the river for Pharaoh's wife to find him. And his sister goes and looks after him to make sure he's safe. And then Moses grows up to be very important for both the Jewish people and the Egyptian people. There's stories of people who got things wrong, but everything turned out in the end. Like Joseph, who was a real big head and show-off, and his brothers were so fed up, they sold him to the Egyptians. But Joseph ended up in charge of all the Egyptian supplies and saved his people from starvation. God has a plan. There are the prophets like Isaiah and Jeremiah who foretold what would happen because they could hear God's message and they shared it with the people. They told people about how a wonderful Messiah who would save them would come. And that was Jesus, although many people didn't recognise him when he arrived. Altogether, the stories tell us of God's amazing plan and how whatever happens, be it floods, wars, famines, pandemics, he'll still make sure that his plan is fulfilled. Just think of this. How was God going to get his message from Israel to all over the world so that people everywhere would know of God's kingdom and about Jesus. Well, the Romans conquered the Jewish people in Israel, and they also conquered much of the rest of the world. They took prisoners and slaves back to Rome and to other parts of their empire, and guess what? The story of Jesus went with them. So it's amazing as you look into the Bible how you find what God has done and all the different amazing stories that are in there. So do try reading the Bible. Find stories in it that excite you or help you, and then go from there to read more. You will be amazed at all that you find in there. Enjoy reading the Bible. Let's finish with a prayer. Lord, thank you for your word that we can find in the Bible. Help us to read it and to learn more about you and your plans. Help us to share your word with others so that they may learn of your amazing love too. Amen.